The Tasmanian Government is standing by the proposed Macquarie Point Stadium despite a damning draft report from its own Planning Commission. The Commission report says the benefits are being overestimated and the costs understated, while calling it an alien form that would not fit with the planning scheme. Some locals, hoping to see what they say is development that responds to the needs and values of Tasmanians, have formed a group called Our Place. Roland Browne is its spokesperson and he joins us now from Hobart. Roland Browne, welcome. So what do you make of the government's argument that this report does not consider the stadium's benefit as generational infrastructure?
Well, the government's prone to exaggerating the benefits of the stadium, and the report clearly deals with all of the claimed benefits of the stadium. And as you've said, the report clearly states that the benefits are greatly overstated and the costs are greatly understated. What people on the mainland need to understand about this is two things. Firstly, this government went into minority over the stadium in 2023. Then it called an early election in 2024. And it lost its parliamentary majority. It's now in a position where it's painted itself into the corner. And the other point that listeners need to understand from the mainland, or viewers, is that Tasmania has an annual budget for this year of $8 billion, and this stadium is going to cost just under $2 billion over 10 years. So the stadium, if it was to be built, is going to bankrupt the Tasmanian economy. We're already seeing cuts to services. We're seeing a pegging of jobs being filled. We're seeing a fire sale of assets. It's a disaster. It's a slow motion train wreck, all because this government is so intransigent. And the other point that's really important for your viewers is this. People in Tasmania want an AFL team, but this Premier has done a deal with the AFL that we can't have a team without a stadium, and that's been a disastrous arrangement. Tasmania now needs leadership to go back to the AFL and redo this deal so that Tasmania can have its AFL teams without destroying Hobart's beautiful, magnificent waterfront and without bankrupting the economy.
But what about the government saying the report appears to underplay the stadium's benefits?
Well, it doesn't. It doesn't underplay it. The Planning Commission has a job to do that's different to the government. The government's job is to promote this stadium, to try and hang on to a thread of its face. On the other hand, the Planning Commission is comprised of 5 highly qualified, independent experts who have reviewed all of the material that the government has put to them, and they've taken into account other expert, independent economic advice. So what the Planning Commission is saying is unquestionably correct, and the government, what they're saying is wrong. We've seen evidence of the government's instrumentality, the Macquarie Point Development Corporation, misleading the Planning Commission, failing to provide documents and materials that have been requested. And this development has to stop. Tasmania has to be put out of its divisive state that this government's foisted on us. We need an end to this stadium project and we need to heal division.
And so this is a draft report and it is confined to going to problems that need to be addressed, according to these independent commission members, not aspects the panel actually agrees with. Is it the case when the full report is released, it could end up being supportive at all?
I can't see that happening. I think the stadium is dead. And the reason I can't see it happening is that as the Planning Commission in its draft report has worked through the planning and environmental and transport and economic issues, it has absolutely trashed the stadium proposal across virtually all of the criteria that it's going to apply. Certainly the Planning Commission agrees with everybody that everybody wants a Tasmanian AFL team, but when it comes to heritage, transport, visual impact, planning and the economics and financial cost and loss of opportunity cost of this magnificent site, the Planning Commission has said no at every step along the way. It's been an absolute trashing of the government's development application. And frankly, I've done a lot of these big cases over the last 30 years. This is the worst one I've ever seen, and it really is disgraceful. And the Planning Commission is just calling it like it is.
So the government seems determined to press ahead with this regardless. Give us an insight into your plans to stop this.
Well, firstly, this is not new to us in Tasmania. We have the Labor and Liberal governments the Labor opposition and Liberal government lining up to support these big projects. For example, the salmon industry is supported by both of them. The Gordon Below Franklin Dam was supported by both of them. The Gunns Pulp Mill was supported by both of them. Well, the Gordon Below Franklin Dam was never built. The Gunns Pulp Mill was never built. And this stadium is never going to be built. We're going to oppose it in the Planning Commission, and if it gets through by courtesy of legislation in the Parliament, with the government deciding that it has to go ahead with it regardless, there'll be protests on the site. This stadium is not going to be built.
Okay, Roland Browne, thanks for talking to us from Tasmania.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe.